which is a part of the Solve Climate by 2030 project of Bard College in New York. And delighted to be with you today. We have Carrie Ann Canfield, who is our communication director, who is staffing the project. I guess for the purpose of recording, let me go through this, even though many of you know what we're about. But the idea behind our efforts with the Worldwide Climate and Justice Education Week is to get people to be doing what they could be doing any day, which is educating others about climate change and climate solutions, climate justice, but in a way to try to bring people hope. And that's why connecting in with Wild Hope is a perfectly natural thing for us to be doing. We the week is a distributed week, so just like Earth Day, that there are activities around the world on Worldwide Climate and Justice Education Week, that there are activities in both classrooms and events around the world. In our call earlier today, we had people from Kenya and from Spain and various other places around the world who are with us. And so it really is a global community that we are trying to build together. So Carrie Ann, would you please show just our introductory video that will give you a sense of what we're all about and sort of how you all might fit in.
Yes, just one moment, please.
And the video is on our website on the homepage for you to look at your own leisure as well. I'm not hearing it. Is that me or is this you?
I'm also not getting any audio.
Where are you emotionally on climate change? One is I never think about.
Is that better?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, we're giving the thumbs up.
And is paralyzing anxiety. Can't sleep at night. Don't want to have kids because their world will be to this topic.
The Worldwide Climate and Justice Education Week is about helping people move from climate despair and disengagement to a mindset of climate repair. This is the education that changes the future. So Climate Week is for everyone. It's for students, faculty, and staff from all subjects, like artists and psychologists, scientists and business majors, students of music, literature, economics, international affairs, healthcare and engineering, you name it.
Join tens of thousands of people around the world in growing climate education. The first week of April, 2024. You're not alone. People on your campus are really worried about climate change. If you step up, others will join you. At your school, you can make climate an event. This means solutions and justice events on your campus. Art, theater, panel discussions, films, faith meetings, music, games, fairs, and displays. Check out our website for examples from all over the world. Engage your whole school.
On top of your events, you can also help to make climate a class. This means encouraging climate-concerned teachers from all subjects, art, history, chemistry, psychology, all subjects, to spend at least half an hour talking about how climate change solutions and justice are relevant to their field of study, how artists, historians, chemists, and mathematicians are all thinking about climate change. We have step-by-step guides on our website to help you make this happen.
Last summer was the hottest in history. Massive fires, heat waves, floods everywhere. We have to stop it from getting hotter every year. You can help organize Climate and Justice Education Week at your school. The biggest threat to our future? Thinking that someone else will lead, that someone else will stop the climate crisis. Now, not next month, not next year. We all need to step up. Join us.
All right, thank you very much, Carrie Ann. And even though they have their camera off, that was Carrie Ann as the last speaker on our video. So since Jenny's going to have to hop off in a minute, I'm going to go right to Alex to talk about Wild Hope. But I'll just say that one of the reasons that we're partnering with Wild Hope is that we're all in this business of helping to engage and inspire, especially young people, and that the Wild Hope educational resources are a great way to do that. And we can see that although their focus is on biodiversity, there are great ties between the factors causing climate change and biodiversity loss. Climate change is often a key contributor to biodiversity loss. And so we encourage each of you to incorporate the Wild Hope resources into your work on Worldwide Climate and Justice Education Week. So I'll turn to Alex Duckles, who is with Wild Hope, Tanglebank Studios of the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, where he is a senior producer in digital media and impact.
Great. Thanks, David. Thanks, everybody, for joining. I'm excited to talk about the project. I'm excited to talk about how we can use our resources, and I'm excited to talk about this interlocking web of the climate crisis and the biodiversity crisis and how we can look for solutions to both. So like David said, my name is Alex Duckles. I work for HHMI Tanglebank Studios. That's a film production studio that's nested within the Howard Hughes Medical Institute. And I'm a senior producer of digital media and impact. So not just the production of resources and getting these videos out and online into audiences, but also making sure that our impact strategy is comprehensive and effective. We want to make sure that we are producing resources that inspire some sort of change, a behavior shift, action that our viewers can get engaged with. And I hope you'll see that for Wild Hope, there's so much opportunity to make that action and that impact happen. And as the slide in front of you says, Wild Hope is a project for us to use stories of hope to educate and inspire local conservation action. So I want to make sure that I'm starting this conversation kind of acknowledging, well, what is Wild Hope, but more importantly, how Wild Hope's focus on the biodiversity loss crisis ties into the climate crisis. In some conversations, we actually draw a clear distinction between the two. That's mostly so that when we're producing stories, they feel like they are about biodiversity, about wildlife and plant life, and the staggering and somewhat scary decline in biodiversity worldwide. That is very intertwined at a different level with the climate crisis, right? A lot of the problems, like David mentioned a couple minutes ago, a lot of the problems that are facing one of these crises are also facing the other. Mass deforestation, building of highways and freeways and cutting available environment into smaller chunks, ocean acidification and temperature rise. All of these are problems at the climate scale, but also problems that impact local biodiversity right outside your window. The difference that we like to make, that we like to draw attention to, and the framing for our project is that when you think about biodiversity loss, these are local problems with real local solutions. It's hard to activate, from our experience, that type of impact and change on the climate scale, where it feels like individual action is not going to manifest at the level where a lot of our audiences want to see that change happen. But when you do look at biodiversity recovery, these are changes that can happen within a season or within a decade or within a lifetime, but you're seeing that local action happen right before your eyes and that biodiversity loss actually be reversed. So the framing that I put here is that Wild Hope is about this good, effective work that's being done to prevent and reverse biodiversity loss worldwide and at the local level. And these stories really do inspire hope. They show our audience people and places and stories where the change has been made, it has been measured, and it is effective. So our goal for the whole project has been to change this narrative from despair to hope, to spotlight the people and organizations who are leading the way. And to me, most important is to educate young people and inspire further action. If we are effective in creating that moment of hope or that spark of inspiration, we really want to give the audience something to do with that energy. So the project, the movement of Wild Hope, has been modeled around, well, these stories might inspire that attitude. So what do you do next? And we want to have the answer to that for each and every one of our stories. So I'm going to show a couple of clips from our episode in a little, or from our series in a little bit, but I want to start with the trailer of our whole initiative to kind of show a bit of this narrative, show a range of our stories, and to give you an idea of what we're all about. So here it is.
We've seen ecosystems collapse.
We're seeing it all over the world.
But given a chance,
we made a choice. We took a different path.
Life can rebound.
We began the world's first youth-funded nature reserve.
We can protect the whole landscape and all the biodiversity there.
From the wild front lines.
There's really a grassroots effort.
To our own backyards.
We're trying to restore nature where we live.
Local solutions are showing the way.
Let's go, let's go, let's go.
We've only scratched the surface here.
We know that you can heal the land. It's incredible.
Who's with me?
Why shouldn't we be ambitious about this?
Wild Hope.
We have the chance to save these places.
So that's what we're here to do. When you think about how our mission started and where it is now, I mean, we always envisioned this as a series of short films. There's too many stories for us to tell in just one traditional hour-long or theatrical length documentary like our studio has traditionally done here at Tangled Bank. Instead, we focused on telling a broad range of stories, truly painting this global mosaic and creating content that is shorter, digestible, and shareable, so that these stories can really get out there and catch fire with an audience. So Wild Hope is released for free and globally twice a month on YouTube. We're in the middle of, I think we've had 20 episodes that have come out already. We've got 36 that are going to come out before the end of the year. And then we're already starting brainstorming on the next batch that's going to follow suit. So we're in it to win it, truly. They release on YouTube with a partnership through our partners with PBS Nature. The episodes began as like half-hour-long short films, but have since gotten much shorter. Again, that focus on 8 to 15-minute length episodes that are shareable, that are better for teachers to use in classrooms, that are better for organizers to use at events. We've heard a lot of feedback that shorter is better for these types of stories. I mentioned this global range of stories of all shapes and sizes and magnitudes. We've got stories about dams that are being taken down in rivers in the Pacific Northwest and oyster reefs that are being built off of in New York Harbor. Big stories of engineering at this massive scale. Reforesting the Atlantic rainforest in Brazil is one of our upcoming episodes. But we also have stories that are very small and intimate. We've got stories about backyard native planting, which we're going to show a clip from in a little bit. Stories that are really applicable to what folks can see in their backyard. The unifying themes here that I wrote are partnerships, innovation, and more importantly, success. We want to show stories where the efforts have actually led to real inspiring change. And of course, surrounding these episodes is a whole multimedia network of impact opportunities, education materials, calls to action, explainer resources. We want to make sure that Wild Hope is a comprehensive way of learning about these stories and then finding the way to get involved. And of course, education, and especially for this audience, education is central to our mission. These resources are all free and accessible worldwide. And more importantly, for this community here with Climate Education Week, We want to know what we can improve. We would love to hear feedback from this cohort, and we would love to partner with you if our opportunities present themselves in a line. You'll also see in the bottom corner, peppered throughout this presentation, a QR code. That's a way to sign up to our newsletter, or you can also learn more at Wild Hope TV and sign up for our newsletter there. That's the best way to learn about what we're doing and to stay up to speed on new resources as they come out. So given that we're a video series, a series of short films, I want to show a couple of clips. This first one is from our film Gardener to Guardian. This woman here, Mary Reynolds. She was a former award-winning landscape designer and garden designer, now turned environmental activist, author, and advocate for using native plants in rewilding whatever ecosystem you have your hands on. So we'll watch this clip of Mary, and then we'll keep going through the slideshow.
I think gardens are part of an old world, and I think we need to build a new one.
The old world Mary knows is one that's been radically transformed by human development. 80% of her native Ireland was once covered with untamed forest. Now, it's just 11%, and nearly half of the protected species and habitats here are in decline. But Mary believes that each person has the power to help restore nature, here or anywhere in the world.
So I set up a movement called We Are the Ark, and I called it Acts of Restorative Kindness.
To turn any piece of land into an ark, Mary asked people to do something both simple and profound. Give half of it back to the wild.
We need to learn how to share, you know, so if you can take half of your land and give it back to nature and restore a native plant community, you know, that would be massive.
Mary started We Are the Ark in 2019, but only began building her own ark 2 years ago, when she bought her own piece of land. The key to restoring native plant life can often lie just beneath the surface.
Start by working with the seed bank, which is in the soil, and setting those seeds free. There's usually about 5,000 we call them weed seeds, in every square foot of soil, and they only need 1/30th of a second's worth of light to be activated. We've been told that it's all just a bunch of weeds, but when you start to see what those native plants actually support and who comes back, this is your true nature being restored.
Mary encourages people to create as many microhabitats, or layers of native plants within their ark, as their space allows. Each layer supports different parts of the local biodiversity, the variety of plant, insect, and other species that live in an area.
We'll revisit that story in a little bit. I'll show another clip from that episode after a couple more slides. So I hope that you enjoyed learning about that level of biodiversity recovery.
I think
this second and last clip I'm going to show is from a very different type of episode. This episode was called Coral Comeback. It features work being done by the Coral Resilience Lab based out of Hawaii. And what I love about this story is it shows much more of the science side of how and where biodiversity is being restored. So locations like Hawaii and coastal ecosystems like the ones surrounding Hawaii have been impacted by ocean temperature rise very significantly, especially in the form of coral bleaching. So that's when ocean temperatures spike over a certain threshold, and coral polyps are forced to expel the symbiotic and photosynthetic algae that helps keep that ecosystem functioning. And as a result, the corals die. The fish and other species that are using the corals as a habitat have to either go elsewhere or will die with that habitat, and it can lead to entire habitat level and ecosystem level collapse. So what the Coral Resilience Lab discovered is that, well, not all corals are actually impacted by temperature change the same. They're selectively breeding in captivity the coral polyps that have the most observable levels of resilience. And as a result, they're able to build this insurance population and build this resilient population of coral that they can then reintroduce into the wild and hopefully stem the impact that traditional coral lineages would feel from global temperature rise. this is also a story that most closely, I think, for all of our stories, aligns with the climate crisis, speaking in terms of the biodiversity crisis, and shows how the two are really one and the same. So we'll show that clip, and then we'll move on to talk more about education materials.
We have a tank which has temperatures that's predicted to happen in 2095, so we can even see how the corals are going to do in about 70 years from now.
The corals that handle the heat best are selected for breeding, becoming parents to the next generation. It takes 5 years and lots of care for them to mature to breeding age.
We feel like we're their parents, and now we're their grandparents. So we get really connected to these corals. We watch them grow and we nurture them.
The hope is that each successive selectively bred generation will become more resilient to heat stress.
When you can increase that trait and enhance that heat tolerance over time in the genes, that's where you're going to see the greatest difference that can make an impact on heat tolerance of the reef overall.
The process takes time and many generations, so the team takes a second track to accelerate their impact.
One of the big issues with coral restoration is scaling up. So we decided to invite community members from every island to join together in these efforts so that we can make a big enough impact.
That episode goes on to show this massive community science effort that's happening over the entire state of Hawaii, where communities are helping to gather what are called corals of opportunity. These are coral heads that get knocked off naturally from animals or from tidal energy in the ocean that then the lab researchers can take and study in the lab. So their research doesn't actually have to damage the reef even more. What's great for impact around an episode like that is, well, coral ecology and coral reef maintenance is not something that's going to be universal. It's rather niche to certain coastal ecosystems and coastal communities. But showing that type of problem, and especially showing that type of community engagement and citizen science effort, I think can be a model to inspire local action and local engagement and local community science anywhere, not just on coral abutting habitats. So examples of the globalness of all of our stories, the differences between all of our stories, and the opportunities for engagement throughout. So let's pivot to education and the resources that surround these episodes. To us, education begins with access. So like I've said, all of our episodes are released globally and for free on YouTube with PBS Nature. 1.5 million views and counting, not too shabby. We're definitely reaching an audience that's excited to share our content and our stories. All of our materials, episodes, and the supporting resources are available at wildhope.tv. That's our hub. It kind of pulls together all of the different dimensions of our episodes. We've got our partner content, our science explainers, educational resources, and of course, our calls to action all integrated through that hub. And I want to talk really briefly about Instagram as an audience where we've been sharing content that is pulling out the smaller cut downs of our episodes into really discrete, shareable, and really exciting small videos. These are 90-second videos that we know can reach a younger audience in a language that they feel comfortable speaking, on a platform where they feel comfortable sharing and engaging. It also allows us to partner with collaborators that use that platform for social engagement. We also know that we've heard from educators that that length of video, that 90-second video, is a great kickoff to a conversation. It can show a phenomena that helps anchor a classroom lesson, or even not in the classroom for impact events or for community screenings. These 90-second videos are fantastic ways to launch into that discussion. So this is our Instagram feed on the right here, but I'm going to show a 90-second video from the Gardener to Guardian episode earlier to show a bit of what this 90-second type of storytelling can do for us. And also, I think it ties in very well to the video that David shared at the top of this presentation and the themes of responsibility and action in the wake of the climate crisis.
I think that a lot of people in my generation are so paralyzed by the climate crisis and the pressure to make change that sometimes they do nothing at all.
This is true.
There's this idea that for you to be a climate activist, you have to change everything. And in that way, I think sometimes people my age take no responsibility because they feel so much responsibility.
So this is our arc, and it's here to give back to nature.
So it's been growing for the last couple of years, and we've all worked together. It's really cool seeing something that started off as nothing develop over time.
It gives creatures places to live, and you're more likely to have bunnies or rabbits or hedgehogs and things in your garden when they have all the natural plants from the area rather than just like grass.
When students came up, it reminded them of the benefits of being in nature.
You can even hear the birds right now. They're all over the place. It's lovely. It's nice to just feel like you're doing something for your soul.
A very important word in the ARC project is kindness. And so you can imagine being a teenager in the world today, all social media and all the comparisons. And when you come in here though, there's no judgment. It's a piece of the earth just being the way it wants to be. And isn't that a lovely message to give to our students?
The ARC is a good way to show people that you don't need to do everything to do something right. I think that
I don't like how the video is autoplay the moment I try to click past. So that's gonna get, like I said, this short, digestible, shareable example of how we can show the Tenant Store episode in a format that we think can launch a discussion, not just as a full 15-minute or half-hour chunk. So now education, the reason why we're all here. I want to talk about a couple of the resources. Again, these are all available for free and online now. We developed these resources in very close partnership with HHMI BioInteractive. That's our formal education team. I work very closely with them right down the hall here at the Howard Hughes Medical Institute. They've been developing classroom resources for high school and higher ed educators for decades now. So experts leading in that field. I will also say that a lot of the content here can be adapted to middle school and younger, especially ideas like key concepts or focus and framing questions in order to help ground the types of stories that you're seeing in these episodes in frameworks to help students and young learners kind of dissect and set up their moments for engagement and moments for learning. So each episode of Wild Hope comes with a viewing guide. This is 2 to 3 pages long that includes key concepts, focus and framing questions, a background narrative about the I would say cultural background as well as the science background that led to the story that you're seeing in an episode. Most importantly, these are all framed around focuses on threats to biodiversity. So we used to say it was HIPPO, H-I-P-P-O. Now it's HIPPOC, including C for climate change. But HIPPO stands for habitat loss invasive species, pollution, population growth, and overharvesting. So each one of these activity or viewing guides grounds the episodes of Wild Hope in an understanding of these core concepts leading to the biodiversity crisis. And of course, all of these documents are aligned to curricular standards, NGSS, Vision and Change, AP and IB level biology and environmental science, just to name a few. So in addition to those episode by episode viewing guide documents, there's an activity called Analyzing Science Practices and Concepts in Wild Hope. And this was designed as a 50-minute lesson for high school level, either general 9th grade or AP and IB biology, which is intended to be paired with any video or short film about conservation, biodiversity loss, and the solutions for biodiversity recovery. That could be an episode of Wild Hope, or that could be any other of your favorite short films about these topics that you want to use to anchor a lesson. This is designed to make sure that educators feel like there's an opportunity to dig deep into these episodes, not just show 15 minutes and then let your students be distracted by the fact that YouTube was pulled up in class, but rather to ground a full-length classroom session in the analysis, the watching, the engagement, and the dissection of topics that were explored in one of these episodes. So students will use this worksheet to identify and describe the aspects of science and the people that were used within the film, and then identify and describe the science ideas, the concepts, and the practices to define and solve specific problems that were presented in the film. So a great way to turn one of these 15 or 25-minute films into a full activity to really dig deep into the science at hand. And lastly, this was a new activity that was developed just for Wild Hope. It's called Designing Solutions to Preserve Biodiversity, and it features this amazing visual comic designed by our team about the Hawaiian monk seal. The monk seal was not a story that we told in Wild Hope as an episode, but it's a perfect example of a species and a system that is under threat by most of, if not all of, those 5 leading causes or 6 leading causes of biodiversity loss. So it's another 50-minute lesson. It's designed for high school level biology classes around the topic of human and population impacts. And the activity prompts students to understand this system, understand the Hawaiian monk seal story, describe the human activities that are threatening biodiversity there, and then take on a leadership role designing and presenting solutions for how you might curb those impacts. Describing potential partners, designing models for how you might make a difference, and then evaluating the proposals being put together by their peers and delivering feedback. So a great way to spend 50 minutes looking at a specific case study and understanding the ins and outs of what causes biodiversity loss, and more importantly, what solutions can be proposed. So we also made sure to not just focus on the in-classroom setting, but also informal science education spaces, or ISE spaces. This is the our spaces like museums and science centers, nature programs, after-school programs, public libraries, and we partnered with the organization SciStarter to curate a suite of resources and citizen science activities that built the backbone of this outreach. So these are, again, they weren't designed for Wild Hope. A lot of these activities already existed, but we wanted to make sure that if these stories did inspire that need to get outside and do something and contribute to a solution, well, these activities can do just that. So a couple of examples here. We had an episode about reintroducing beavers into rural Scotland and in the UK. And well, there happens to be a citizen science activity that prompts users to identify beaver dams from space. This is a collaboration between Park Services here in the US and NASA, because they've got a trove of images, of satellite images, and they need to scan those manually to find beaver dams. And finding those beaver dams allows us to properly allocate resources to protect beavers. So this is a citizen science activity that anyone can do from their phone or computer in order to contribute to this ongoing body of research. What a great opportunity to give to our community after being inspired by our Wild Hope episode. A couple other examples, iNaturalist is an amazing citizen science app, and we've been prompting users to conduct bioblitzes and survey their own local biodiversity. And then there's an activity that prompts users to take selfies at rivers and waterways and streams in order to measure the health of the ecosystems behind them. So all of these are great prompts, great calls to action, great citizen science, get out there and do the work yourself activities that pair very well with each of our episodes. And then I would be remiss in not mentioning some of our other partners as well. The Citizen Science Association we've worked closely with. I mentioned iNaturalist. We've developed some content with them over the past. And then PBS Learning Media is another education platform. We're in the process of getting our resources in there as well. That is the last slide of my long and exhaustive rant on what Wild Hope is and how we can make a big impact. I wanted to end highlighting a couple of the locations online where you can actually find and use these resources today. So all of our episodes are available at wildhope.tv. All of the classroom resources I've mentioned are available at wildhope.tv/education. We actually include a web form at that website where downloadable episodes are made available exclusively to educators. We know that access to YouTube can be limiting in schools. Access to Wi-Fi can be limiting for a lot of students. So having the episodes made downloadable was something that we cared a lot about, and we were able to reserve the right to download those episodes explicitly for educators. So we're happy to include that link in that suite of resources. I talked about the informal science education resources available at scistarter.org/wildhope. Don't forget to sign up to our newsletter. That's linked in the QR code here. Again, that's the best way to stay in touch with us and to learn more about the resources as we release them. We're going to be putting out content for at least the next calendar year, so we're very excited to be continuing and in the middle of this journey. And then, of course, my name Alex, and my email address is dropped there. If you have any questions about our resources, ideas for stories, opportunities to collaborate, we really do want to hear from you. We are in the middle of this. It's very unlike us to have a project that is lasting so long and with so much opportunity for collaboration and growth. So please, please, please do get in touch, share your ideas. We would be really excited to hear from you. That's it. That's all I got. I would be very happy to answer any questions if they come up. Or again, if they don't want to be asked today, please do reach out to me at that email address, and I'd be happy to chat more.
Thank you very much, Alex. Yeah, it's a great set of resources. I think resources is an understatement for what's there. It's a box of hope is really what you have there. And thank you for sharing that with us today and for partnering. And just as a reminder that we are recording this, we will share the recording with everybody who's registered for this, and also the links that Alex has put there and our email addresses. We'll share that with you as well. So, any questions or comments for Alex to begin with here?
Yeah,
Go ahead,
just want to
Nishanga.
say it's super inspiring. I love, especially the to me, like having something to offer people to do immediately, like the citizen science is really nice. And it's not just an individual action, like so many times with climate, like the takeaway is either I have to obsess over every plastic bag or I have to drop my job and become a climate activist. But here we have something that's on a, meaningful, interacting with others on a global scale, but yet it's doable by the individual. So I really appreciate the whole thing, but that component really struck me.
Thank you for saying that. I think it is certainly the, understanding that duality between the biodiversity crisis, I would say as a framing conversation, or the climate crisis as a framing conversation, because truly, if you look at the brass tacks, they're so deeply interlocked. But also, we've been able to, or we feel that we've been able to reach into some spaces that weren't involved really in the climate, in climate activism or climate solutions, but they do really like, well, I love the animals in my backyard, or I love gardening. We've got an upcoming episode actually about hunters in the Rocky Mountains that are advocating for switching from lead-based ammunition to copper-based ammunition. And we're excited about releasing that episode because that reaches into a community space that we don't feel like is invited into this conversation very frequently, but could be immensely valuable allies in this global movement. So biodiversity as that conversation starter allows us to identify problems that people can see, and especially problems that people can help solve. But I think you're right. The solutions to one crisis are the solutions to the other. Being a better steward of biodiversity now in the spaces that you have access to, well, those are the stepping stones to this broader, a little bit more daunting climate crisis that we're in the midst of currently. But it's not an opportunity. It feels like we would be missing the opportunity to activate that change now and to reach out to those new audiences now if we didn't have this biodiversity angle, I think, to the way that we're framing those solutions.
Yeah, and it captures hearts and minds in a way. Is I think sometimes people are, especially with animals, cute animals, it captures people's imagination. And then also the hope message is so important, because I see so much in my work with young people, and I loved the Instagram video. So many young people feel it even more strongly, but then it's paralyzing. So this offers something that one can engage with on a local level that helps treat that sort of feeling of paralysis and overwhelm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, and just, along the same lines in terms of reaching out to the hunters and others. I remember a project that National Wildlife Federation did. This is 15, 20 years ago, maybe now, where these were groups that are not necessarily wanting to talk about climate change directly, but they interviewed people and said, well, what changes have you observed in your own experiences? And you can do the same kind of thing with farmers, because the farmers, of course, are always paying attention to the weather and climatic conditions. And that's a way of opening that conversation. And in terms of the connections between climate change and biodiversity, that of course many of the solutions for climate change, that the selection of corals for restoration, that's a climate adaptation strategy. The planting of trees is a strategy for storing carbon and reducing the heat island impacts of climate change. So they really are very intertwined. But, Brian, I don't know what, what your status is now in driving, or whatever, but did you want to offer any thoughts or questions?
Yes, I made it back home, but I'm like struggling to figure out how to view the Zoom on my phone, but I'm so excited. This is amazing, amazing work. I see so many synergies with what we're doing with our Conservation Nation Academy. And my one question is, how do you find all these stories?
It's a great. David asked that question in the earlier session as well. We wish that we could tell them all. We've got a list of 500 plus stories that keeps growing. I mean, there are not just with scientists and volunteers and activists that are making this change, but there actually really is a good network of journalists and storytellers that are out there spreading that good word. So it's not hard to search online for stories of biodiversity recovery that really do inspire hope. When we pick the stories that we choose to tell, that's certainly a different process. We are a production studio. We're looking to maximize our ability to get stories out there. So we're trying to find kind of bundles of stories from specific geolocations. For instance, we filmed 4 stories down in the Atlantic rainforest in Brazil because there's so much good work happening. It's a biodiversity hotspot. There's a lot of amazing conservation work happening out of Rio and around the surrounding cities. So that gave us a chance to have one production trip and got 4 really valuable stories out of it. Same with some stories in the UK, like the We Are the Ark episode, because there's a lot of amazing conservation work that's happening based out of the UK and Northern Ireland. So it's a mix of the best science out there, the most impactful conservation work that we can find. Those are the ones that wind up on our list. And then again, the stories that we can tell are matters of access, time, seasonality, and like I said before, we're nowhere done from filming these stories. So we have a lot more to tell, a lot more amazing conservation to highlight, and we're excited to keep doing the good work.
Well, that's so amazing. I just so appreciate learning about what you're doing and excited to find ways we could collaborate for sure.
So
I don't know
Alex,
if you know David Asai, who was at HHMI.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
He's now on our board at Conservation Nation.
Oh, great. Well, very small world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've of course worked with him as well. So
a very small world, because I think we have a call with Conservation Nation tomorrow.
Yes.
Yes.
And then I'll be more have my camera on and be at my computer.
I know,
for that.
I'm very excited about this call. So thank you. I wasn't connecting the dots, but now I am. And we're thrilled. I'll talk about Alex more about that in our upcoming call, but love the work you're doing. And I love that somebody from HHMI is on your board. That's what I call a small world.
Yeah, I used to work for the Audubon Naturalist Society, which is now called Nature Forward. And for many years, I ran the Green Kids outreach program with public schools. And we had grant funding through this like special side program that David administered. So I've known him for a long time and was able to snag him to join our board when he retired. So
wonderful. Well, I look forward to tomorrow more than ever. So
yeah, I look forward to talking to you then. And thank you, David, for making all these connections. I so appreciate it.
David's a master networker. We've met more people from him. He's like the Wizard of Oz. You pulled the curtain back and he's connecting everything.
Yeah.
Well, glad to do it. Yeah, and I've worked with David Asai on geoscience and sustainability education too. So yeah, so it's small. So just to kind of summarize here, Alex, for the recording, if nothing else. So in terms of ways that educators can be interacting with Wild Hope and the resources, whether they're using them in Worldwide Climate and Justice Education Week at the beginning of April, or Earth Month later in April, or beyond that. So the actual episodes are all available for viewing for free on YouTube. They can go to the Wild Hope TV .tv website, and as an educator, register to be able to download the episodes, and then the other resources in terms of the discussion guides and other things. Those are available to anybody. You don't have to register or anything like that. Is that right?
Yep, that's right. And they're available through wildhope.tv/education is where we've amassed all of these links. Those resources are hosted on HHMI Biointeractive. That's a true in-classroom resource. The standards alignments are very robust there. There's a great community of educators that are using these resources now. So rather than just hosting them on wildhope.tv, we're going to redirect you over there because it's a much more cohesive space where education materials can be linked together, and the tools they have are quite robust. There's a lot of high school educators I meet with already are using Biointeractive, but if you're not, then it's a great place to find these resources and find many more on top of that. But yes, David, to your point, all available now for free, and we want to hear what you think. We want to hear how they're being used. We want to hear how we can improve them too.
Right. Yeah. And we have a resources page on our Worldwide Climate and Justice Education Week website. And I know we have the link to the Wild Hope, but we'll need to interact here and link to some of these other specific resources. And then Alex will be providing the links, and we'll send that out in the follow-up to everybody who registered. So just again, for the purpose, for those of you who are here and for the recording, that we will have weekly webinars every Wednesday at 9 and noon Eastern, going right into the beginning of April for Worldwide Climate and Justice Education Week. I think Alex is our last speaker, unless somebody we're trying to connect to comes through, but there'll be an opportunity for everybody to come and share what they're doing and get feedback from others and just kind of hear ideas. And so we encourage you to join us. And if you are organizing events that you would like to have associated with Worldwide Climate and Justice Education Week, whether they're Make Climate a class or Make Climate an event, please do go onto our website and register them, and then you will get access to our branding and marketing kit that Carrie Ann has developed, and we have downloadable certificates of participation for organizers and students and other resources as well. So, Alex, any closing remarks you want to make at this point?
I'm just excited to be connected more with this community. I think that the work that we're doing doesn't really work when it's done in a vacuum. It really does require support and alignment and collaboration. So the more that we can work with folks, the better. The happier we are. The more change we can make.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, and Nishanga and others, Diane and others who are listening to the recording, that you are key parts of this whole education and inspiration ecosystem, because you know, we can call for activities. Alex and his team can make content, but it's really the rest of you who are working on the front lines with learners. You're the ones who bring these things to life, and so we thank you for not only for being today, but for the work you're doing.
Thank you so much, David.
All right, pleasure to see you, and Kieran, you can stop the recording now.